She walked through the crowded terminal of LAX with her shoulders squared and her eyes locked forward. Her uniform, freshly pressed, bore the insignia of the United States Army. Her boots, polished to a mirror shine, echoed on the glossy airport floor. In her left hand, she held a leash, and at the other end of it was Samsona Black German Shepherd, whose calm presence radiated quiet authority. No one around her knew that while her posture was disciplined and her uniform flawless, she was fighting a war no one could see. Only Samson knew. Only he could sense the internal storms that surged within her. Major Brielle Carter paused by the restroom mirror, staring into her own reflection. Her name tag gleamed. Her medals were perfectly aligned, but her eyes haunted, weary, silent betrayed everything she'd endured. 35 years old, with the eyes of someone twice her age. She took a breath, the kind that steadied but didn't soothe. "Steady, Samson," she whispered. The dog sat beside her, alert, never breaking eye contact. His vest read, "PTSD service dog, do not disturb." LAX stretched before them like a battlefield, chaotic and loud. For the average traveler, it was the start of vacation or the end of a business trip. For Brielle, it was a gauntlet of sensory triggers, each one a landmine waiting to explode into panic. She gripped the leash tighter, walked toward the TSA checkpoint, and prepared for the first battle of the day. The line shuffled forward. Samson walked perfectly in sync with her, creating space between her and the encroaching crowd. The TSA agent didn't look up. "Pets have to go through separately," he muttered. "He's not a pet," Brielle said firmly. "He's a medical service animal." She presented Samson's paperwork and her military ID. "Yeah, I hear that a lot." "Therapy, emotional support, whatever," the agent said, waving his hand dismissively. "He still needs to be scanned separately." Her jaw clenched. "He's a PTSD service dog. He's trained to stay with me." The agent finally looked up and narrowed his eyes at her uniform. "You look fine to me. What's wrong with you that you need a dog?" The question was a gut punch. How could she explain that loud noises sent her mind spiraling into flashbacks? That crowds made her dizzy with claustrophobia? That the world no longer felt safe, even when it was? She replied coolly, "My condition is protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. I'm not required to disclose the details." The agent rolled his eyes. The people behind her shifted impatiently. Someone muttered, "Just take the dog off. She's holding up the line." Samson nudged her leg gently, sensing the rise in her anxiety. "I don't have time for this," the agent snapped. "You either separate or step aside." A supervisor approached, drawn by the tension. He spoke briefly with the agent, glanced at Brielle's ID, and said with a forced smile, "I apologize, Major Carter. You and your service dog may proceed together." They passed through. Victory, but not without scars. As they walked, she overheard someone say, "People will do anything to bring their pets everywhere these days." At the gate, the fight resumed. The airline employee frowned at Samson. "He'll need to be crated and stored in cargo. He's a service animal. Under the Air Carrier Access Act, he's permitted in the cabin," Brielle replied, presenting the documents again. "He's too large. It's a safety issue. He's trained to tuck under the seat. Do you have a doctor's letter?" She presented it. "I'm a Hochonin combat vétéran." The agent scoffed. Everyone's a veteran these days. Brielle's hands trembled slightly as she held out the paperwork. The eyes of fellow travelers were on her again. The air felt thick with judgment. Samson stood calmly by her side, unmoving, unreadable. Eventually, a manager reviewed the documentation and cleared them to board. But by then, the emotional damage had been done. On the plane, she took her seat. Samson slid under the seat without a sound. A woman nearby wrinkled her nose. "I hope that thing doesn't shed." "I'm allergic." Brielle said nothing. Words changed nothing. Instead, she closed her eyes and recited her grounding technique. In 234. Hold 234. Out 234. Samson's body against her legs reminded her she was not alone. As the plane taxied, the noise built in her ears, pressure, vibrations, memories. She clenched the armrests. Her breath quickened, panic rising like a wave. Samson shifted, rested his head on her foot, applying deep pressure. Immediately, her mind focused. Pressure, warmth, present. The terror shrank moment by moment. She barely noticed when the woman beside her leaned closer. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Brielle nodded. "Your doggy helps?" Another nod. "I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't understand." The comment pierced her fog. A small, fragile offering of understanding. Brielle whispered, "Thank you." As the flight descended into D.C., she braced for the airport chaos. Announcements blared, crowds surged, children cried. Samson walked closely beside her, guiding her through the noise. At baggage claim, she positioned herself against a wall, scanning all entry points in instinct she couldn't turn off. Samson stood watchful. A group of teens passed. One reached towards Samson. "Can I pet him?" "No. He's working." The girl frowned. "Whatever. It's just a dog. Just a dog." Just a dog who pulled her out of the darkness when she couldn't leave her apartment, who anchored her to the present when her mind tried to pull her into war zones. Just a dog. The carousel roared to life. As people swarmed around her, the crowd closed in. Her breathing shortened. Samson pressed against her again. Steady. Safe. Then, a scream tore through the terminal. "Help me. He stole my bag." Brielle's training kicked in. A woman was pointing at a man running with a purse. Brielle assessed the threat. Medium build, no weapons, fleeing east. Samson tensed. The man was heading straight toward a young mother, juggling a baby in a stroller, unaware of the oncoming danger. "Samson, with me," Brielle said, picking up speed. But they were too far. The man slammed into the woman. She nearly dropped the baby. He grabbed the diaper bag. "No, please. My wallet, me baby." Then Samson acted, without command. He placed himself between the thief and the mother, body solid, growling low and deep. The man froze. A wall of black fur and muscle blocked his path. No aggression, just unwavering, commanding presence. The terminal fell silent. Brielle approached, dropped the bag. The man's eyes flicked from Samson to her uniform. "Airport security is en route," she said. The thief weighed his options, then dropped the bags. "Fine. Not worth it." He turned straight into the arms of security. Brielle knelt beside the mother, still holding her crying baby. "Are you okay?" The woman sobbed. "If your dog hadn't been there." "Samson, release." The shepherd stepped back. The woman asked, "May I thank him?" "Samson, visit." He approached gently. She stroked his head. "Thank you," she whispered. Crowds had gathered. Phones were recording. Brielle's nightmare. She felt the weight of 100 stairs. Panic rose. Samson returned to her side. She sat on a bench, overwhelmed. Samson pressed against her. Anchor. Focus. Security took statements. People whispered, "Did you see that dog?" "She's military. PTSD dog, I think. My cousin could use something like that." By nightfall, the video went viral. Veterans groups called. The Secretary of Veterans Affairs requested a speech at the National PTSD Awareness Conference. Brielle sat on her hotel bed, Samson beside her. Speaking in public was her greatest fear. But something had shifted. For once, she hadn't just survived. She'd protected. She'd served. She accepted. In the days leading up to the conference, she practiced her speech while Samson kept her grounded. When nightmares woke her, he was there. The hall was packed. Veterans, doctors, journalists. She stood backstage, heart racing. Samson touched her leg. "I can't do this," she whispered. He looked up, eyes steady. And now, Major Brielle Carter and her service dog Samson. She stepped out, Samson beside her. "My name is Brielle Carter," she began. "This is Samson. Together, we navigate the aftermath of war." She spoke not from notes, but from memory. About the noise, the triggers, the isolation. About how Samson wasn't just a dog, but a lifeline. Her voice shook, then steadied. "PTSD doesn't wear a uniform," she said. "It hides in plain sight. Samson gives me the ability to live." Applause erupted. Samson sat calmly. Airlines began training their staff better. Donations poured into veteran service dog programs. The woman from the airport started a fundraiser that trained 5 new service dogs. The nightmares didn't vanish. The hypervigilance didn't fade. But Brielle was no longer drowning. One afternoon, she stood before a veteran support group she had once been too afraid to enter. "Ready?" she asked Samson. He met her eyes. Together, they stepped forward. Not everyone who fights wears armor. Some wear scars. Some hold leashes. Some keep walking because they have to. Because somewhere, someone needs to see them and know that healing is possible.